Hey, everybody, we are live. Welcome back into the Draw Juice universe. I'm Chris Petracchi. And if you're new here, hey, we're doing live critiques every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. And I'm on time. I like to be on time for my people. Who's out there? We got some people out there. We're going to have a good time tonight. Um, if you're new here, just hang around, see what you think. If you want to support the channel, a really inexpensive way to do it, is just to subscribe and comment and give it a like, and that'll kind of push it out there and support it. I'd really appreciate that. And you can also support the channel. There's links in the description for that in other ways. Um, let's see. Hey, Mimika, what's going down? How are you? How you doing over there in Greece? Oh my gosh. If I could speak Greek, I would say Kyrie eleison, or, that's all I can say. I don't know. Theta, alpha, beta. I think that's Greek. Okay. That's enough of the Greek jokes. They're not that funny. But welcome, Mimika. So grateful that you're here. And Warm Spring Church, yo, welcome. If you have, questions, put them in the chat. If you have comments, all that stuff, that would be great. And what else? Hey, Nick. Nick, how are you? Good to see you. I'm here. There's me. And there's my setup. Look at that. So tonight we are gonna talk all things art. Let me start off with my gratitude, because I'm grateful for my health. I was a little bit under the weather, and so was my wife. And she's feeling a little better, and I'm very grateful about that. And guess what else? I'm grateful for my equipment. Okay. It's ironic that last week I started out with saying I was grateful for my equipment, and it started to sputter, and it interrupted the live streams. That was pretty funny, but we're back. I don't know what happened, but we'll make it through. And let me know in the chat if you can hear me, you guys, and see me. Give me a confirmation in the chat, a thumbs up and everything. But I'm grateful for that stuff. What else? Grateful. I don't know. We had 4th of July, and that was all right. That was fun. No biggie. Loud and clear. Good. Yeah, grateful. You guys let me know. Let us know what you're grateful for in the chat. I always like to start off like that. And then want to kind of also have a wee bit of a quote here. And so last time we started off with Leonardo da Vinci, and he was talking about the spirit. And if there was no spirit involved, then the drawing or the art really wouldn't manifest. It was something like that. We talked about his Vitruvian Man and how that was a symbol of the symmetry and the beauty of the human figure, and also how he was into science and philosophy. And so this one I thought was quite good. It jumped out at me, so I thought we'd use it again. Learning is the only thing the mind never exhausts, never fears, and never regrets. Very interesting. Let me know what you guys think about that. Because I think that. I think learning is an inexhaustible well. And for some reason, I like learning. I like learning guitar, singing, science, art, of course, So, yeah, to me, it's really fun. That whole mastery thing, I think that's a stage that people go through. I know guys go through it, and they want to be the master of that thing, So I don't know. I don't resist it. I just kind of go with it. And I have lots of interests. So I'm into learning. That's good. Sometimes learning's painful, though. And you just want it to be easy. Anybody feel that way, right? Why can't I just ever be sort of at the top of the mountain and never am there? So that's also common, I think. So let me know what you guys think about that in the chat, and let's get maybe kind of rolling here. I think I wanted to talk about this because we've been talking about the obstacles to creative life, and we're covering my battle to creativity ebook and that I put together. And so we're probably on the third segment here. But last time we talked about overlaps, and I had an acronym of the 5 ways to create depth in your art, and it was called DOFAC. And I forgot the F, what it was, but I remember what it is this time. And the F was foreshortening, right? And so one of the main ways is overlap. So you have diminution, right, where things get smaller in scale as they go away. And O is overlaps, and F is foreshortening. A is atmospheric perspective, and C was convergence. So those are kind of like the 5 ways you should know. But this one is keying in on the overlaps and how simple it can be if you take whatever elements there are and overlap them. You get a 1, 2, 3 kind of read. You get a foreground, middle ground, background. And if you add line thickness to this stuff, then you're going to get an even more enhanced feeling of the dark heavy line advancing towards the camera. A medium line surrounding the contour of a shape will sit in the middle ground, and then a light line, a thin line, will tend to recede back into the distance. And so very simple ideas that are really effective. And so let's go to the next one, rhythm and gesture. So basically, the gesture is a line of action, a force that goes through any organic thing. Okay, so it implies movement and life. And it's really the gestures kind of for figures is the weight, the balance, and proportion. And it's the hardest thing to teach. It's the hardest concept to get through when you're talking about teaching figure drawing, because people tend to copy surface detail and anatomy and don't understand the rhythm, the watery, fluid nature of life. And water is a wave, and energy is a wave. So using that rhythmic gesture line works good for figures. So my technique is to find the gesture first and then build my design off of that. So if we look at some of these drawings here, the red line is indicating the gesture. And like I said, it could be anything organic, figure, right? You can find rhythms in the head. You can find things in geometric man-made things as well, like this vehicle. And notice how the gesture is either, you could say it's leading into a focal point area. So it's that C curve into the head, right? That's the focal point. That's the number 1 read. And so everything's going in towards it. Okay, you could also follow the lines out, right? They could be gesture lines out that way. But I think it's better if it reads. And you've got a payoff here, which is that monster's head. Here you can see the flow of this vehicle. And that's leading towards the cockpit, right? There's this sort of lines pointing towards this, the payoff there. And so if you can think about that in your drawings as these gestures are kind of leading lines, okay? Here we have details in this head. I think you guys can see it. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay. The details, right? They can be, you can organize these things as well. Let me come back to this. Around radiating lines. Okay. So here, these gestural lines are coming in towards the front of his face, where his eyes are, where his gaze is. So I'm, using them to lead you in to here. Okay. The You can organize details around, let's say, radiating lines, right? You can organize them kind of this way, and have, plan your details along. So these are a little bit like rhythmic grids that you can hang your details on, instead of just details all over the place. There is a kind of undergirding structure for them, which is, I find, a neat idea, especially when you're trying to make something up and you don't know where to put the details or how to organize them. Think about something like that. And then, of course, down here we have the figure. And I like to build those along C curves and S curves, or straight lines. So you get the C, the S, and the straight. And so here we have a curve this way and then a curve that way. So you have two C curves kind of opposing. Here on the left, you have one C curve. And here you've got this and this. So you have two C curves. It's like a compound curve. Okay, so rhythm and gesture, there's a lot that could be said about that. It's pretty complex. But when I learned this technique, I was able to draw figures from any angle. It seemed like it was magic. And all I was doing was just this concept of C curves and F curves. No anatomy, no bones, no skeleton, but just hooking together C curves in a chain. And it really works. So we can get into that maybe later tonight too, if you want. If you want me to cover that later tonight, let me know in the chat. Hey, Jessica. Hey, Sampico. Welcome. Michael. What's up? What's up? Good to see you. Everybody, let me know what you're grateful for in the chat. Also, let me know if you want me to cover a little bit of figure stuff. Okay. So that's going to be it for that. We'll get back to this later tonight, but I'm going to get out of this and go into this. And let's start with a little critique. First up, oh my gosh, Mamika. When I saw this in the Facebook group feed, I was like, who did that? And I glanced, and it was you. You're really coming along, getting better and better each time. This one is a pretty big leap. So I'm just like so floored for that. Let me show you. I am floored for what you did. Hey, great job. So it's got great sense of lighting. This looks like, I can't think of, there's that, anyway, it looks like a classical rendering from some of the artists like Botticelli, back in the 1500s, 1600s. That it looks so beautiful. It looks great. I love the rendering, the depth, the darks and the lights and the midtones all coming together in a fortunate way to create this dramatic face, right? They've got to come together, right, in a fortunate way. and you're the one to wrangle that, so it's no accident. So I have really, really ad, you know, great admiration for this drawing. It looks cool. And I like that the emotion in the furrowed brow, the hair, everything. That's cool. Now, if I had to if I was pressed to say, well, how could I make this, a little bit better? I would say in the initial observation, right? Because we have to do la, ah. Remember the la? Sounds so funny. LAA, right? And you're kind of looking, and then you're analyzing the position, the head type, and that sort of stuff. So that's if we just take 15 seconds. I think the gaze, right? You got the tilt. So if that's our long axis, right? And we're kind of just trying to get the tilt left to right, we got to get that first. And then we look for that center line, right? So as I kind of see the center line is here. So if I get the tilt, and that's that long axis pulling through the poles, then I gotta go ahead and find the center line. And that's a different line. Okay. So it's a little bit off the center. It's a little bit like that. And yours is, kind of split down the middle. And what I'd have to do is accommodate the gaze because it's slightly to the right. Okay. So there's a little more real estate here on the left side of her face than there is on the right side. Okay. So if we just took a line, see if I can beef that up a little bit. Beef it up. So big, look at that. No, not that kind of beef. Come on, Photoshop. Okay, well, if I just measured a line and I moved it, let me see if I can get it right. I'll just check myself. Maybe I'm wrong. But see, there's kind of a bit more on the left than there is on the right. So that's how I would kind of check myself there, right? So we have a little bit more of an equal on yours. Okay. So that's, I'm going to say that's just a, observation thing, getting the tilt. But it's an awesome drawing nevertheless. So I'm not going to touch it. I think you've just poured over this thing and made it beautiful. And it on its own, it's okay. Because it's got the emotion. I think Leonardo da Vinci also said if a drawing doesn't show a state of mind, then it's no good. Wow, that's a pretty high bar, right? I mean, yours shows thoughtful emotion. There's some thinking behind those eyes and some pondering, and it's definitely uh, the reason why we do this in the first place is to tell story, to capture emotion. Would you agree with that? Why do we do that? Why do we do this? Right? It's to express, to express ourselves. to plumb the depths and see what's inside, to entertain others and ourselves, to inform others, to tell stories. C.S. Lewis said, "We read to know that we're not alone." So telling stories connects. Telling stories also communicates, let's say, values. Like, remember Aesop's fables? Like, they're these stories with intention to instruct and communicate modes of being, that work within a community, right? So it holds together. Like, what's the right behavior? What's the right value? What's the right way to think about this? So stories carry images, and stories have great purpose in our life. So this is a great job. You can be proud of this one. We're not going to touch it at all. You don't have to, you know, reproduce this like a photo either. And so there's enough here that's really strong that we can call this a Bing success. Okay, you got the success check. Whew. Okay, all right, let's go to the next one. Let's see, I'm going to check the chat real quick. Yeah, Gilvero, MTG, MTE, Meta. I get that every time. You're welcome, Amika. Ruben Rivera, what's happening? Okay. So, are you guys letting me know what you're grateful for? Let me know any of your thoughts in the comments. And then any questions, any thoughts, what have you. All right, let's go to this one. This is really, really nice. I like this. I think you succeeded with that hair. It's like, it looks so full and thick, right? There's layers there. The texture is right. Isn't that amazing? It's like magic. So this one, the shapes, the gaze, the tilt is very well done. So I'm liking this one. Background looks nice. I would say sometimes the connections, like in areas that we neglect or we don't have enough time, but let's say, this hand is covering the neck shoulder connection. So right here, it's not maybe up to the common value that I find in with the features and the whole face and the hair. That's so well done. And then the neck is kind of in the middle. It's not there, but it is there. So I would just say, if you think through this, and it's just a silhouette, maybe it's just a silhouette, it's just a value. Maybe let us know that there's clothing just in a shape, kind of like that. But we don't really kind of question it too much. See if I can get texture. That, maybe that could help because he's got that sweater and it's thick and it needs a connection that's a little more characteristic of what that sweater would be. I don't know how tall it should be, but you don't want to cause call attention to it. But right there too, there's just a little sense of thickness there that brings it up. Brings it up. Okay. Very small little critique there. But I think it's worthy nonetheless of going throughout the drawing and say, you've done such a nice job with crisp edges and soft edges and lost edges, like lost edges back there, crisp edges, and everything in between. That, you know, in this area here, it kind of, you could make it lost or you could make it a little more crisp, just maybe just go one way or the other, and that would be fine. Here, I might just soften up that edge of that shadow because it's attracting my attention. So right in there. Because you got a nice crisp edge with the cast shadow of the chin on the neck, and then it goes into a form shadow. So there's crisp, hard and soft, and the neck is a round cylinder, so it doesn't need to be too crisp in there, right? You can just soften it up just a little bit. Otherwise, it's great. I think it's very, very nice. It's hard to draw on that textured paper, I feel like. I like smooth paper myself, so you did a nice job with that texture coming through. Maybe a little bit of, on the temple there, right, where there's a plane change from the front of the face to the side. I don't know. This could use a little value or something like that. Not much, right? The box there of the eye socket. Something happened to my settings. Okay. Oh no, what's going on? I don't know what that is. Okay. So there is that eye structure, and that's where you see a little bit of core shadow there along here, and then a little bit there. So you could just bring that in ever so slightly. You don't want to overdo it. But I think it's good. It's really nice. Looks like him too. You got the likeness, and it is a fine, fine drawing. Sometimes on clothing too, either put the end of the collar, just put it in, and don't try to do any texture, or do some texture, but maybe don't sort of put it in, but really put it in. That might help resolve this transition from skin to this stuff. And again, you'd have to put it in there, but not attract attention to it. So whatever material that is, and then that's up to you. Put it in there or not, but don't be in between, because it's such a nice photo. I think such a nice portrait. You could bring it up a little bit, and then you could stop. But anyway, great work, great use of the medium, nice value range, and that is cool. If you're kind of drawing, going back a little bit to this idea of, you have a neck, and the shoulders are going out this way, and then you have some kind of shirt. There's a center line for the chest. So you have a shirt. I usually draw, like an overlap. I'll intentionally do an overlap around to the back side. So that initial line is the shoulder, but the clothing has a thickness to it, right? So it might have a little collar like that, or it might be, a crew neck or something like that, but I'll give it that little space right there. So we know that it wraps around. This one, this angle, you may not see that wrap around. It may go this way. Or it might be going that way. So it depends on um, what the collar's doing. And if it goes that way, then I need another wrap around on this side. And there's that gap and that little space there. So these overlaps become uh, really effective in communicating dimension. Like this thing has a backside, and it could be like that. And as soon as you kind of, we don't often look at this stuff and draw this stuff, but as soon as you analyze it, it it's not as hard, because I think they're hard at first. Like, well, how does a collar look? I don't need to draw that. Like, what is that? And it becomes sort of a little bit painful. But then once you draw a few of them, like you figure out how thick something is and where the overlap should be, where the shadow should be, then they become very fun and effective, again, in communicating so much about this, and it lends that believability to it. It just adds a little bit. So this might have a collar with this design here, right? Could be like that, and you could do that. Or like I said, it could have a whole different kind of collar. But the wrap, the way that it overlaps and wraps around, study this, and don't leave it out, right? Because it adds a lot. Seems like a little, but it adds actually a lot. Okay. Great job. All right, let's go into John Schwobel. How you doing? Is John here? Uh, Gerald. Gerald is here. Isguera. What's happening? Teeth are really well done. Yes, the teeth are done well. All right, that's cool. That's cool. Let's keep on going here. This is cool. What a nice, great photo reference. Very beautiful. Nice pose and very beautiful drawing here. I like how he's left out some information with the clothes and left it light. And so taking some artistic license, which I think is very, very good to do. And he's practicing, copying, right, reproducing, but then also going off and into the unknown and testing his skill, right, for design, seeing what he can do a little bit different for originality, for creativity. Just take a little chance, and that's the way to do it, right? Just one little element on the piece that you make for yourself. So yeah, very nice value range. I love the hair, how loose John is with the hair, which is really cool. Got the gaze, got the tilt, found the center line, head neck connections, really nice. All that's going good. Want to just say something about the I don't know if it's the chin and then the forehead. So it's looking a little narrow in the horizontal dimension and like in this dimension. And it might be because as I look, though, it looks right. It looks right. It's at the right angle. If I draw something here and move it over, it's pretty much there in general. So that's good. And then it might be something back here, right? It could be that it's not wide enough. And then the chin, I think it ends at the right place, connecting to the ear. But the chin or the jaw, then the chin itself gets a little wide. And so those couple of things are making me kind of look at something here. I don't know what. And I'd have to really measure it out to get there to figure out what it was. That's a nice right there. The connection from the head to the neck, this right here. See that? And then down. Most of us, you know, make a chin and then a line right like that. And what he's done is he put that little connection right there. And it works so great. There's something there except that's exactly where you put details. It's the connections and transitions areas. So head to neck, skin, forehead to hair, right? Um, Neck to shoulder, jaw to ear. That's where you put the details if you need to add something to the drawing. It's like the transition places from one thing to another. And that little thing he did right there is great. Love that. I love the line right here, okay, of the border of the clothes. Just looking, thinking, comparing. The lips look lovely. And yeah, I just wanted to do something a little bit with the chin and the jaw, just a little bit more narrow. Because the difference between a male and female in general is a lot has to do with the chin. A male chin is going to be a lot more chiseled and boxy. And a female chin is going to be a little bit less boxy, more narrow, and less angles, just in general. So if we do, a boxy chin, it's going to look more masculine, more chiseled, right? Especially in the back half, that transverse part of the chin and the ascending part of it's really masculine. It's going to have a nice angle right there. Whereas a woman might be a little more soft in the angle and softer on the chin. And it'll be a little bit smaller. Right? Same thing with the nose and cheekbones. Although there are variations, of course, women can have lots of bone structure and cheekbones and stuff, but in general, you could use the idea of the male is a little more boxy, a little more plains, and a little bulkier. I might add a slight bit of halftone in the eye, just a little bit. Let me grab that. right in here because it's an important place, and there is a little bit of half tone there. And to me, right there, that sort of kind of infraorbital triangle is definitely part of the eye socket. To put a tone there, to me, it does something. It brings emotion in there. The eyes are like, if you see that someone's, um, been crying, or they're a little bit tired, just or you're just expressing and communicating form, and and you can bring a little something in there. And I find that it tells a lot about a person's state of mind. They could be a little bit exhausted, they could be depressed, depending on how much value you put in there. But I don't know, it's an area where I always look that I find has so much beauty and so much potential to express the portrait and the beauty or the emotion of someone. So I think that's cool. You did a great job. Cool, John. Thank you. Let's go on to this one now. This one is really, really cool. What do you guys think? It's there's something really cool and special about the technique, right? The pen ink application is really amazing. There's so many varieties of lines here that I wanted to point them out. And it's a pen and ink drawing of a oil painting. I'm not sure who the original artist is for the painting, but Subodh, you did a great job here. It's so nice. So let's look at the techniques that he's done, because in rendering, it's so tough, to render, and pen and ink is especially tough. So let's look at some of this stuff, because we need to know how to render. And when we go across a cheek or a jaw or the eyes or just a cylinder or whatever it is, there's many ways to get there. And let's just look at a couple of these. So here, let me get my brush over here. This, change my brush again. What is that called? Hatching, right? So we've got hatching. So you can just hatch away. You could hatch vertically, you could hatch horizontally, you could hatch at an angle, right? But we've got somewhat uniform lines with uniform spaces in between. Again, you could go diagonal. And it just builds up a flat tone. So it's kind of like you're massing in tone. Call it massing in. And you can go with the surface of the plane. So it's expressing some kind of plane in space. And you can go with the plane or against the plane. Then he's got, over here, cross hatching, right? So that's obviously, right? First, we did the hatching, And to build up tone, I don't go again the same direction because that looks messy. So we change the angle a little bit. And I think we covered this a little bit last time, but this is something we always are confronted with when we want to go darker, when we want to turn form. How do we do it? Do we just mass in tone like this? Or do we, you know, we have so many choices, and that's what he's done so beautifully here. So I thought we'll just point it out. And then he's got these are, this is a uniform line right there. But look what he did right here and right here. Hair. Okay. He's got a thick to thin now. Okay. So now he's getting a dynamic line in there. That's, let me get my brush situated here. Right, so it's like thin. Pressing hard, letting off pressure. So you've got this dynamic line. It's expressive, right? And so that's really working too. And that's like, a paintbrush dipped in ink or a crow quill pen. And maybe he was using something else like a micron pen, you know. I'm not sure exactly, but it looks like it has some thick to thin pressure sensitivity to it. And so then, he kind of put the thick line against a very thin line with a gap in between. So that communicates a shine. So that the variety there is the spice of life. It's like eye candy. Eye loves that stuff. So if you've got a single one-dimensional line with a line that has thick to thin, with ones that are crossing, with others that are dots, it just gets so the eye cannot keep track of all that stuff. It just can't calculate it. And it's just all this beautiful stuff just coming out. And it just overwhelms the circuits. And that's good. It's like music. So I love how he's done that jaw, right? So that there's this jaw, and then there's the cheek right into the chin. Now, how are you going to do that, right, with a pencil? I mean, we can smudge. That's our favorite thing. But, how are we going to get from the dark and roll out into the light? Well, here's a good way. You can just go one way, and you can. So what I want to say was, we have these hatching lines and cross hatching. If you go across a round surface, it's a contour, right? You're going over the cylinder like an ant crawls over it. You're just tracing that. That's a contour, okay? That goes with the surface of that volume. And then if you add another line to it, it's a cross contour. That makes sense? We're building up tone. We're massing in value. So where up here we had the contour, or we had the hatching, and then the X hatch right here. Now we've got the contour, and then the X contour that we put over the top. Okay. That's good stuff, right? We need to know this stuff. It's not obvious. So if I go across this thing and I try to keep my lines, somewhat equally spaced, And then I go across with another one. I can make a gradation because I can stop as I go down and to the right and up and to the left. I can keep building. And so that's a way with line to build up something like a cheek, right? So you see what he's done there. He's gone one way up to the shadow. So he's kind of put in a flat 2D accounting for that shadow shape. And then he knows there's a core shadow. So you've got to find a way to create, a gradation like this. So he just kind of came alongside here and there around, it's a round. He's trying to get some roundness out of that cheek. And then he came out a half tone into the light, and beef up that core shadow just a little bit. And so you just take things and you go from general to specific, flat and 2D to 3D. And you can do it. Just kind of think it through, but it helps to come in with a plan and know how to make something round or make something more square. Look at the wonderful work in the eyes, in the eye socket, how he indicated the eyebrow, right? Loose. And then inside planes of the nose, varying degrees of looseness and tightness, But it's clear, it's very clear where the planes are. The nose looking good. Everything's, indicating some kind of plane, a value and a crosshatch. And it's so cool. It's so fun. And I'm not good with pen and ink. It's not one of my strong things, but when I do it and when I see it, it's just, I do really like it. And then he's gone really nice. So one of the other things you can do with this is the scribble method, right? Just nice and scribbly. Figure out how to scribble in control. And we don't know what that is, probably feathers or something like that, but it works. You don't have to draw literal feathers. I'm scribbling, or I'm even just doing this, right? Little modified letter U's, like the letter U, just to put them together. There's like 5 or 6 little techniques here. And then there's just the flat, so all this nice detail and movement with these lines against a flat, dark passage makes contrast. So love this one. It's really fun. It was really daring to do, to take an oil painting and translate that into an ink. And so what the heck? I didn't expect that. That was cool. Any questions on that, on rendering and stuff like that? Yeah. Mimika says lots of variety of lines. Hey, David Stacco. Yeah. Glad you're here. Yeah. It has style. I agree. It has some style. And I like how he really stylized the stuff on the hair. It's like a crazy feather thingy. I don't even know what it is. But it's a great shape, that's characteristic of this stuff. And internally, we know it's turning from light rolling into the darkness because he gave us these planes right here, and different value indicate a form. And then on the light side, he just gave us a little bit of detail just by squinting, And so a lot of great choices here from Subodh. And I can't say his last name, Pokriel. That's cool. So I hope he watches this. Okay, I think we got everybody here. Let me check, go back in here to the photo drop. Okay, nothing there. So I was thinking we could do a little bit of figure drawing stuff. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. And so we were talking about gesture before, and maybe we can talk a little bit about gesture. Why not? Tampico says, why not? Dude. Yeah, okay. Why not? I agree. I agree with you, brother. So let me bring this up. I'm just going to draw to the side here of this thing. These are like really quick poses. So when I worked in animation, that's about movement and drawing fast. And so we would practice poses, and the way that the structure went for the model and the posing in class was 1 minute poses. Sometimes we did 30-second poses, so we did 30 seconds, then we did 1 minute, 2 minute, 5, 10, 20, and then maybe an hour, if we got there. So, it would be like 10 ones, 5 twos, 2 5s, and stuff like that. As we went through the day, the poses got a little bit longer over a 3-hour session. But when we got to like past 20 minutes and up to an hour, people didn't know what to do, right? Because we were always just doing the fast stuff for animation. So animators aren't real finishers. They're not renderers. And so they don't, get too much benefit out of that. But there is kind of a question when you want to go longer than that. It can be there can be a little left to be desired if you don't go longer. So if we go with like a quick pose, then what I do is I find, the gesture. I start with the head. That's the first thing. And then I use some C curves and S curves to get kind of this thing blocked in. So I follow a gesture construction anatomy technique way of doing this. And it's very effective. And I don't have to get very far. I just have to capture the action, right? Once I've done that, I've got this armature, then I can describe the form and its direction in space, right? So how am I going to do that? I'm going to wrap around. Okay, let's go back a little bit. How I'm going to do that? I'm going to wrap around the form using cross contours. It looks solid because I'm telling you what is the form and its direction in space by drawing across the form. Right? I have to do actually very little work for this to happen. It's like magic. Let's just get the head neck connection. That's it. Good enough. You can see a figure right there. It's coming to life. It took me a minute and a half. And if you know a few key secrets about capturing the action, with the gesture and describing the form and space, then you can do that. That's the definition of drawing. That's what, I learned this. This is kind of a Glenn Vilppu foundational kind of stuff, way to draw. That's how I learned. And he said that drawing was capturing the action and describing the form and space. So let's capture the action in the most simple way that I can. I won't leave out the head. I want to start with the head. And, I want to find the simple line that I can pull through all the way through down to the foot. Okay. That head's a little too big. And then I'm going to put in a couple of simple primitive forms for the rib cage and the pelvis. Get my armature going, get that sense of weight and balance and force moving through. Oh, okay, let's move on. And notice I'm pulling C curves, one in succession, slightly lower in the chain than the other. Okay, that's all that they have to be, is a C curve or in relationship, one slightly higher or lower than the next. And that's enough to do the trick. Get a little head that's simple but characteristic. Head neck connection. And there. Okay. Oops. Another way to do this is to kind of find. Let's go back a little bit. Is to wrap it in a straight line envelope to kind of, again, block in from general to specific. It's as if there's a sheet covering this person. And now you've got, the extremes. And now you can kind of account for everything and then put the figure in there, and it's not going to go too wildly out of proportion. And this technique you can use it's a classical technique for drawing anything. Let's go slightly back a little bit. It's the straight line envelope. It's a discipline. It's not my favorite way to do it, but it's actually very good to do that if you can develop the habit of it. Because you can use it for still life, landscape, and all the rest. Okay. Now we can also use a straight line technique. And instead of using gesture, we can go more with structure. Right? So if I use a little bit more straight lines, very 2D, flat, boxy looking stuff. That works too. Some people like straight lines more than they, that's just their inclination. And I recommend having both approaches at your disposal so that you can come at it with whatever you need to. Let's just keep that going just a little bit. Then I can, again, draw over the form and pull some 3D architecture out of that. Try to make sense of this flat stuff. So we're going from 2D to 3D in this step. The wraparounds are so effective at communicating a round thing or a square thing. Just go over the form and tell people what it is. Okay. The head looks like a little bit like Mickey Mouse. What's up? It's a little bear. Hey. Hi. Okay, cool. So fun. All right, move on to the next one. Let me check the chat, see what you guys are thinking here. Very useful understanding the power of body and structure. The poses, yeah. Yeah, the structure. So it's the gesture and the structure. It's the life. The curves give it life, and the corners give it structure. So if you want a more structural looking drawing, use more boxy straight lines. And if you want a more animated, energetic, lifelike, introduce a little bit more C curves and S curves, right? More gestural movement type lines. And you'll get that. That's just the way, the mechanics of how these things work. Okay, so I got my gesture. Everything was 2D. And then I start to put in, and draw over. I could move this thing around a little bit. Here it is. So do you see that one long C curve? That's what I try to find, the one long C curve that I can pull straight through to the floor, to that supporting leg, or, one of the legs. If I see that, I'm going to go for that. It's like a little armature that I've got going here. And then I'll put what I think is the rib cage, pelvis. So I've got one leg this way, one this way. Let's go back. Right, that lines helps me line up the feet on the surface as I'm looking down. Helps me place them solidly. Then I've got the connection between the torso and the pelvis. I can go around that like it's a bucket. And I have one line, one side that's very long and stretchy, and another side that's very pinched. It has a few more bumps. Right, so we have this. Oh, I'm going to go with this. I feel that torso is sort of moving away from me, so I'm going to go across this way. And the pelvis is sort of coming toward me, so I'm going to go the opposite way. So here's a bucket coming this way, and it's connected to the torso going the opposite way. They're contrapostal. They're in opposing positions. You see that? That's what it is. So I'm not drawing any anatomy. I'm drawing the simple forms underneath, like balls, boxes, and tubes. And then if I have time, I'll put the anatomy over it. So it's kind of a 4-step process. And once you get familiar with it, once you get kind of fluent with it, then you can draw a little bit faster each time. So see here. So there, it's a partial drawing. It's a quick little study. You could knock it back. You could kind of knock that back, right? And then if you had time, you could go through the drawing again and start to clarify some of these things with the anatomy and how things connect. Because we talked about connections being super important, and they are. So how that rib cage connects to the torso. If I can express that clearly, my drawing is going to be clearer to my audience. We got this way, we got that way. I'm following the shadow pattern over the top, right? So everything I do hopefully clarifies the drawing, captures the action, shows the direction in space, the position of this person more and more. It's like developing a photo in the dark room, and it just starts to emerge. And it's like magic. It's a magical thing. I guess that's why we do it. And you can think through any drawing problem if you just analyze it. But you do need a few key foundational things to look for to be able to do it consistently. Figure drawing is one of my favorite things to do, and portraits. It's a funky looking foot, but it's fine. So do you see the way I went through that? For the arm, it's a tube. It's going away from me in space. I'm going to draw over it to communicate that that tube is going away from me. It's connecting to this other tube that's thick on one side and thin on another, and it's coming toward me. So I'm going to draw accordingly. And then I can put the olecranon, the elbow, right? The deltoid on top, going into the bicep, compression of bicep into the arm, and so on. It's just a step by step, simple process. Love it. You guys loving it? So it's kind of like architecture. First is action. This is the secret sauce. Architecture, anatomy, and then application. Okay, capturing the action, right? That's the flow, that's the lifeline, that's the weight balance proportion, it's the gesture. Then the architecture, that's the construction, that's the solid 3D forms. Start to build those. On top of that, you put your anatomy once things are blocked in and in the right place, right? So we're going from low resolution to high resolution. Once I got my anatomy in there, then it's my technique, my application. What am I going to use? Pen and ink, charcoal, oil, watercolor. That's application. So it's a 4-step process: action, architecture, anatomy, application. And that's how I go through the drawings. It's a habit. I do that every time. And it works. And you can draw fast with that. Okay. Let me see here. I hope that was fun. If you guys want me to do more of that figure drawing type stuff, let me know. And we can also start putting figure drawings into the mix so I can critique those. And so let's see here. That might be wrapping it up. That was totally fun. It's fun after you've gone through a little drawing session of figures to arrange them on the page in kind of a fun way. And I think I'm going to be going live on my YouTube during the day. I'm not sure which day. I'll let you guys know. And I'll just be doing figure drawing kind of warm-ups and stuff and talking about how to do figure drawing. What's that? Right. And then when you get practice kind of arranging drawings and composing things, dealing with complex shapes and sizes, big and small, kind of have fun putting them on the page. Got more. How many did we do? And then I find that's always kind of fun too. Yeah, so. Oops, I cut out drawing. Might make sense. Okay, you want to see more of these? Tampico says that. Jessica says that too. I think we got a yes. We got some enthusiasm there. Okay, so there was a couple approaches there. A very gestural approach, a little bit more straight line approach, building 3D out of 2D. It's fun. It's not that hard to do either. All right. So you guys, Remember to add some comments down below. Give it a like, please, and I would really appreciate that. Sub if you haven't subscribed already. And I thank you, everybody who submitted work and held up under my scathing critique. um, it's good. I learn, you guys learn. And what else? Any other questions? Hey, you're welcome, Mimika. Yeah, everybody keep healthy, love each other, be charitable to each other, and we will see you next time. I'm going to be putting out on my channel Friday, I think, a podcast interview that I did with one of the most talented artists that I know, that I've worked with. So I know him personally, and he influenced my art hugely. So I want you guys to see that. That's going to come out on Friday. And just, chime in. We're going to be talking about art, life, and, how he thinks of animation. He's an animator, right? So he's into this kind of stuff. And he's super high level, one of the best, I'd say, in my opinion. Okay, so you guys, lots of love. Peace out. We'll be seeing you next time. Okay, ciao, ciao.